What's the best part of the writing process for you?
That is a profoundly good question. um, I think when you find that synergy between your characters and the plot, and again, things are starting to roll, and it could be in the outline phase too. I've had plenty of experiences with, having that breakthrough where you're like, oh, right, this is where I need to go. It's not, I don't think it's necessarily one thing. It could be, you write a terrific scene or a great chapter and you're just like, yeah. And then of course, you could always go back the next day and think, what the hell did I write? But that doesn't happen as much, I think, when you feel like you really pulled out and you really expressed yourself in a way that, or had the characters express themselves in a way that, resonates with you. I think it can be anything, again, from really thinking up a cool plot point to really getting that log line down where you're like, oh, this is, I'm on with this. And I'm one of those people who's, I know William Broyles Jr., who was a terrific screenwriter. He's one of the best. He always, I remember reading an interview with him years ago saying, never be satisfied. And I agree. I'm not always satisfied. I always want to, I always think I can do things better. I'm a perfectionist. I always want to continue to mine. And if somebody says to me, we can do it, I'm like, great. Let's do it. Let's mine this. Let's dig. So for me, I think when, the time where I really feel where I love, with the process that I love, is I think it's the discovery of, again, your character, where they're going. And it could be, the character is in trouble and how do we get him or her out of it? What's a creative way of doing it? And always thinking, again, I hate the expression outside the box, but thinking outside the box, coming up with a new way and a new twist and how that, being inventive. And when that works and it's working on the page and you think it's working on the page and you're like, oh, that's cool. And it opens up and it's those psychological breakthroughs, in a sense, in regard to the creative process.
So when you start to see that, wow, that these dots are connecting, this is actually working.
It's great.
It's great.
It really is. It's it gives you a confidence, and you just feel it. It buoys your spirit a little bit. Like I said, the next day you could go back and you're like, oh, okay, I got through this. Now, that's why it's good to have an outline. But even in having the outline and knowing, how do you start up, especially in, writing that next scene or writing that next chapter, you're still staring at a blank page. You have an idea of where you want to go, but then it's a matter of, really inventing that. And it's that's something else that's exhilarating, but also daunting at the same time, without a doubt.
What's the fastest you've ever written a full screenplay, and did that screenplay get made?
Fastest. I wrote Take Back pretty quickly. The first draft was probably a couple of weeks after I'd outlined it. It was pretty quick. It took a little while to get made. And it subsequently went through a number of drafts. But yeah, I probably wrote it in about 3 weeks. 3 to 4 weeks, maybe. No, not even 4 weeks. I think it was like 3 weeks.
3 weeks, huh?
Yeah. I had it pretty much locked in. But again, that was a first draft. And that's the other thing. It's, writing is rewriting, rewriting is rewriting. So, what I always enjoy, actually, and I should, back this up, is that putting the script down putting that primer down is fun. But I really enjoy going back into it and reworking it and reworking it and reworking it. Because I think if you've laid down a good blueprint and you have a good bare bones, what you basically transfer from the outline to that script, I think then, going back and reworking it and making and polishing it and really exploring it even more, that's when the real work is done. And that, I think, is what's most rewarding for me personally, is the rewriting process, for sure.
Have you ever fallen in love with a character? Not one that you'd written, but another one where you felt that the person was real. We were talking about earlier about Salinger and the letters and this book that I read, and these people related so much to Holden Caulfield, and they just they felt he was so real.
Sure.
Did you ever feel that for a character? Whether a book,
I don't say falling in love, but I've had some characters that I've been really taken by. Santiago in The Old Man and the Sea. Nelson DeMille, who's a contemporary mystery detective novels. He's sold very well. He wrote The General's Daughter and a few other that have been made into movies. He has a character, Plum Island, John Corey's character, who I adore. I think and DeMille's always he's written John Corey is wonderfully entertaining and funny and witty and acerbic and empathetic, and I love that character. Off the top of my head, I really recently, I'm like a lot of other people, read Where the Crawdads Sing, and the young little girl who grew up, and just sheer empathy for her and her story. Again, I didn't fall in love, but just loved what happened and where she went, where the writer took her, and just being so involved and rooting for her so fiercely. I could say that about Jay Gatsby. He's so mysterious, and I was always fascinated more by Jay Gatsby. I loved Catcher in the Rye, but there was always something, just that allure about Jay Gatsby. And again, my memory's coming up short, but I don't know if I've been invested heavily. I don't know that I've ever completely fell in love with a character, but heavily invested in rooting for, and adoring characters for sure. And I know I gave you novels. I didn't give you necessarily screenplays, but I think one of the reasons that I am still, French Connection is one of my favorite films, is the dynamic between Gene Hackman and Roy Scheider, Popeye Doyle and Sonny. I forgot his last name. It was Cloudy, was the nickname. Popeye and Cloudy. Obviously was their buddy dynamic. But also it was, again, these were New Yorkers like myself, and they had that attitude, and they really, I just always took a shine to them. I thought they were terrific, and really loved them, and loved their dynamic and the movie in general.
Did you like Serpico?
Yeah, another great one. Yeah. Pacino, again.
New York, yeah.
Yeah, New York, and his intensity in that, for sure, and in a lot of his films.